The Misfits. The people with opinions and the stories behind them. Argue with them. Disagree with them. If you're brave enough, listen to them. The people who think differently don't just shape conversations. They disrupt them. Because the Misfits aren't rare. They're among us.
For Mike, becoming a Marine wasn't just a job, it was an identity. Structure, brotherhood, purpose. The hard part wasn't going in, it was figuring out what to do when it finally ended. Dirty Mike, welcome to Misfits Among Us.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate it very much. Glad to see you again and be here.
Dude, you are one of the guys that keeps us safe. You've been through a lot and you got the name Dirty Mike, and I think we should just start out right from the beginning. Let's talk about how the hell this happened, and then we can get into how you joined the Marines and the military and like why you did it, because to an outsider like me, like that's heavy.
From the podcast that we were doing, we got Scott Gibson, who was Captain Andy Haldane in HBO's The Pacific. And through that relationship, it just came together, man. We hit it off. My co-host and I were invited to Peleliu for the 80th anniversary of the World War II battle there. And if you don't know where Peleliu is, look at it on a map. It's super hard to find. You'd never know it existed. And so when we were there, it was like a fire team. There was 4 of us, and we got real tight. So the first podcast episode actually we dropped on YouTube was the recap from Peleliu. And I was introducing everyone with kind of their nicknames that we came up with. And Scott Gibson's like, oh, and Dirty Mike. And so there's a scene in The Other Guys, if you've ever seen that movie with Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg, and it's Dirty Mike and the boys, right? And they leave a note after they steal his car, like, hey, thanks for the F shack, Dirty Mike and the boys. And so I was telling a joke about how I left a note for the people that we had a little shack that we stayed in. And I said, I left a note that said, thanks for the F shack, Dirty Mike and the boys. And so that's where it stuck. And it's been Dirty Mike ever since that podcast episode, publicly anyways.
Mike is going to go through kind of how he became a Marine and all of this, but coming out of this, he started this insanely quick growing podcast that's speaking to people that either were in the military, specifically in the Marines, other fractions within the military. I don't know. What do you call normal people like me who don't go to the military? What do you call them?
I mean, yeah, it's normal people, man.
Normal people like me come across this. These are Hollywood stories that you hear about that these guys are just talking about around a table, and they've been through so much and they've seen so much, and they're all very, normal at this point in time. Like, you don't look like the Marine. You got the beard, right? You're wearing the t-shirt. I mean, you were, and I saw photos. I mean, you were ripped and shredded, right? You're not, maybe you are underneath that shirt out, but you're not as ripped and shredded as you were, right? It's going through the Marines versus what you are now. You're like a different guy.
And you feel like a different person. And, not to like so deep so fast, but that's something that a lot of us deal with. Is like this almost cognitive dissonance of who we were and who we are. And looking back, you don't see that as me. You see that as like a young kid that went through that. And it's really weird. It's a different lens. The change is definitely, it's just one of the many things in our heads that we have to work through. And, just like by you having me on here, right? And we say this all the time, is that we've really, really found that being open, honest, vulnerable, talking about things, there's somebody sitting out there that's like, man, I'm going through that. And in a weird, almost, it might sound like selfish way, there's something comforting about knowing that we're not here isolated in our own little corner of we call it the first Civ Div, right? The first civilian division. When we get out, the first Civ Div alone. And we have proof of that just by people saying like, I heard you guys talking about this. I'm dealing with that. And it's just, yeah. So the more we talk, and even just being on this podcast, I'm sure that some of the things we'll talk about, people will hear it and be like, man, I'm not alone. And then once you realize you're not alone, then it gets more powerful. They can realize they don't have to suffer in silence. Right. So again, thank you so much for having me here and helping spread, what it is that we're doing.
Dude, I'm a huge supporter because you've lived a life I could never live. And I mean that with the most amount of respect. Meaning I could never be trained in a way, I think, to stop another individual. I say that. I say that. Look, if somebody came after my family, I think I could step up and say, "Wait, I need to stop you." But
Yes.
outside of that, and I think this is the key, and we're going to get into this too, it's this camaraderie family that you have with these other individuals where you really are stopping people from hurting your family. I mean, they are a part of this brood of yours that you don't have a respect for until you've been in and seen and trained the way that you have to a civilian, a normal dude, an outsider like myself. My hat's off to you. I bow down to you. You are what a hero is. And in a lot of times we think, heroes are these imaginary characters that fly with hammers in their hand and they're faster than life and they shoot laser beams out of their fingers in their eyes. This whole Hollywood world, but there's this other element where it's a normal person that does these extraordinary things and sits there and says, "I'm willing to do something bigger than me." And occupy that space, and that's really what the heroes are. And you've lived this, and I know we're diving right in the deep end, but I do want to start at the beginning. You you were a Marine and you wanted to be a Marine, and there was no ifs, ands, or buts. But to understand that in your own mind and to decide to go on that journey, which is not easy, you needed to kind of, I don't know, have some moments in your life that almost steered you in that direction. And I want to talk about what your mindset was. I want to talk about who you needed to know, those moments in your life that made you or built the building blocks for Dirty Mike. Let's talk about the Dirty Mike
Sure.
building blocks.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things people always ask, right? Like, when did you know or whatever? And I reflect back to there's a picture of me in preschool at a Halloween party. And I've got the cami BDU cover on, Boonie cover, and I've got a little plastic toy weapon. And I was like 4 years old, man, you know? And it was just, I don't know. And this isn't to ever, people who know me know, like, this isn't to ever take away from other branches or people that served in other branches. There's something about Marines, and I think even the other branches will tell you, there's something about us that we joined the Marine Corps for one purpose, to become Marines. That's it, right? If you want to do things with aircraft, if you want to do things with infantry, there's more job opportunities in the other branches and great job opportunities to be mechanics, anything that you want to be. And they're really good at it. I mean, some of the other branches, like, I feel like they have better funding and better things. The Marines, like, we're operating with Vietnam leftovers when I was in, right? So if you want to be high speed, the Marine Corps is not the way to do it. You join the Marine Corps for, well, two, maybe three reasons, all right, at most. So to become a Marine, to earn that title, right? To be able to have that Eagle Globe and Anchor, boom, for the rest of your life, right? To be able to
Yeah.
get branded for the dress blues, right? And then if, for the we'll just put it this way, for whoever your interest is. We usually say, like, for the girls, but hey, man, times are changing. Some people might want dudes and whatever, but it's to impress somebody that you have an interest in sexually. And it's so funny because I'm sure you've seen one of my posts about how Marines are the same for 100 years. This book I've got, The Miracle at Bella Wood, they're talking about the Marines who joined back in 1917 for World War One. They wanted the dress blues. They wanted to get the women, right? Jesus, man, it's been over 100 years. We're just exactly the same. So with that said, I always had this passion, and we joke about the 90s commercial of the dude slaying the dragon. Got the sword right over there that he does it with. We wanted to slay the dragon and all these cool things. Two individuals in my life. One, Sergeant Don Reeves, Vietnam veteran, lived diagonal across the street from me. And another one, Greer Baker. He was an 80s Marine. They're both kind of like second fathers to me. And I saw the men that they were. I saw just how they interacted with people, the level of respect that they had for other people, and then also the level of respect that other people had for them. And they were in the community. They helped the community. They volunteered. They did all these great things. That's the man I want to be. I want to be them. And it wasn't even seeing them in their combat element. You talked about how I'm not as ripped anymore or anything. We've got the vet bods going on. They had
Yep.
the vet bods going on. So I just saw the men that they were, the core human men that they were. And it was like, that's it, man. Like, if the Marine Corps it makes that, then that's where I need to be to become that.
When I first spoke to you, I was actually, we didn't talk about this, but I was blown away a little bit. There's something so beautiful about you as an individual. And I mean that in like, I don't know, make it sound good. Dude on dude, beautiful at this point in time. But what I mean is you have like this honesty and softness about your voice and the hard, chiseled outer shell that you'd think somebody in the military might have, you kind of left at the door. You're not sitting there saying, I have to impress anyone. I know the type of person I want to be. I know the work that I want to do. I'm not here to offend. Like, people need to understand this. Mike, who's sitting on the other side of the camera from me right now, is such a nice individual. Where if I ran into Mike and Mike was just in normal street clothes and we passed, I don't know, like a Target or some store, I would never sit there and say, wait, Mike's in the military. Mike to me is a very normal individual. And I know that's not everybody that comes out of the military, especially that comes out of the Marines. It's true that the few, the proud, exist in your place because you sat there and said, when I was a kid, I dressed up like a G.I. Joe. And look, I loved the G.I. Joes, right? I loved also how ridiculous the G.I. Joes were, like laser beams and flying and just doing weird shit. Like, that was awesome, but that's also not normal in any part of the military, right? There's this element of we got to ground ourselves and say it's a little bit different. But you also sat there and said, I respected these guys. I kind of wanted to be respected. And it wasn't about them going to war. It wasn't about them looking a certain way. It wasn't about them existing a certain way. It seems like they respected you as much as you respected them. And you saw this element in them where you're like, these are the guys I want to kind of be like. I'm giving people the respect that they deserve as much as they're giving it to me. And there's something so beautiful about that because, and you touched on it before too. You're like, you join the Marines because you want to impress a girl. Maybe you want to impress a dude. You wouldn't hear this. You wouldn't hear that coming out of anybody from the military 10, 20 years ago. It's you exist in a space where you did this for everyone. If you were an American, you were standing up for them no matter what type of American you were because you believe you have rights. And you and I speak about this where people don't realize freedom is not really free. And but you encompass that, which is because you could sit there, right? You could sit there and be like, yeah, we're in it for the boys, right? We don't like what these other people look like. No, you're sitting there saying that's not what this is about. That's not what this is about. And there's just it's very nice because not everybody understands that there's people in the military that are like you, people who just want people to be free.
You said so many kind things, man, that I mean, for people like the whole like the heroes thing and stuff. And like I actually started to get a little worked up when you said that earlier because I was just for some reason it took me straight back
My goal was to
to
make
a
you cry.
dude.
It wasn't.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it took me back to like what a hero actually is. And, we were doing this thing. It was Operation Iron Fist, 2005 October in Iraq, and there was a car coming, and you never know. You never know. Sometimes you've got a feeling. Right. And we had it wasn't, just light it up. It was warning and then disable. And then, okay, let's stop this thing. And this kid jumped out there. He was in the front and had his whole squad behind him and went through the 3 steps. And I mean, the car ended up detonating. I mean, that dude's a hero. Like he saved everybody behind him. There's a quote from Black Hawk Down of all movies where they say like, none of us signed up to be heroes. Sometimes it just turns out that way. That's the thing is like you talked about the camaraderie and things of that nature. And it's that love that we have for one another. And I don't think that we realize how powerful it is when we're in because like we hate each other. Also, we're, you're around these dudes. Like literally I was with this core group of guys for like 4 years straight and you love them to death. And you do everything with them. You get haircuts together. You go eat together. You go to the store together. You don't ever go anywhere alone. You're always together. And it's not force. It's just, hey, I'm going to go like get a haircut. Oh yeah, I'll go with you. And then the car piles up, people who serve, they know what I'm talking about. And then like, but then, you get around them so much that sometimes you just like want to be away from them. We had this reunion. It was our Iraq reunion a couple of years ago. And that's where this flag got signed. They gave us flags and everybody who was there signed it. And our colonel, he had been at a retirement ceremony of a general who was talking about what's the superpower of the Marine Corps? Is it the honor? Is it the courage, the commitment? Is it the make the green grass grow with blood? All of these hardcore Marine Corps things. And the superpower of the Marine Corps is love. It's that love that we have for one another that allows you to do those superhuman things and put yourself like, how do you just put yourself in harm's way? Well, because if this person accomplishes what that they're trying to accomplish, it's going to hurt the people you love. So to be able to step up and do those heroic things or to save the people you love, like you look at like the Dakota Meyer story, why put yourself in harm's way? Because he's got to save the people he loves. Like that's why, that's why you disobey orders and go jump in Humvees and go save people and do those things. This is because it's the people you love. And I mean, kind of another thing that you spoke about was like just being a normal dude. Go back to people who served on Iwo Jima, Guadalcanal, the Eastern European theater. So many of them, you could have never, would have never told that they were veteran. Especially they didn't have the cool high speed T-shirts and hats like we do now. And not to take away from anybody, maybe that's a hard charger or hardcore, like, hey, I'm a veteran, look at me. But and again, this isn't like a look at me thing either. But I think when you look at people, when they've done things and they know what they've done and they know what they've been through, you ain't got to try to be tough. It's finding that peace after war. I've experienced the crazy. This is not the place for it. If there's ever a time for crazy, I'm sure it'll come back. I'm sure it's in here somewhere and it's going to come out if I have to defend my family or my life or myself or something like that. But, and it costs nothing to just be a good person. Like, I don't know why we're not better people to each other. I think that that's something that I share with veterans a lot about how we feel broken. The last 5 minutes, I've been on borderline tears over here, man. But we talk about like all the things that we go through. And to me, there's like this sense of enlightenment that we receive through the war, through the hard times. When you see people living with nothing, living with no electricity, wondering where food is going to come from, no clean water, and whenever you're in a combat zone and every single day you wake up, you don't know if it's going to be your last one. Just to have that level of enlightenment, like how valuable life is and think what is worth fighting for. Is it really worth getting in a fight over like your coffee being made incorrectly or somebody cutting you off? I mean, I rage out a little bit in the car but it's not worth the situations that we put ourselves into. It's just not. I mean, just imagine if everybody was just kind to each other.
You've brought a normalcy to an outsider for something that's never perceived as normal. This is really what I love about you. I do. You're making this sound. I went to the military. I was in the Marines. I did a lot of stuff. I saw a lot of stuff. I'm out now. I'm trying to figure it out, which I think so many people are trying to do when they leave the military, no matter what branch you're in. And it's hard because you spend so much time, like you said, with these other people doing specific things. Now you got out and you're like, I'm left to my own devices. I got to figure it out. And I understand why some people can't cope. I also understand why some people go back into the military and say, I need this level of direction. I need this level of orders. I need this level of organization because they feed on it. That's just something that they do well on. And then I look at the other people like you and you're like, I did it. I'm out. I got to figure this out now. But you do it in a very soft way. I know we weren't planning on the whole beginning of this to be just like, with the light mic off, he's doing a great job. Like he needs to glow. But it's nice because I think to a lot of civilians, you sit there and you think of people in the military, you think of people out of the military, and there's this like, Sergeant Slaughter guy who's like, I'm here. I want tacos for dinner. You don't expect the softness in people's voices, and you have it. And that's probably more normal, but we don't always see it. And I think that you've built this platform where you're talking to other people through YouTube and Twitch and now TikTok, all these different places where you're able to give people a look into lives, tales, things going on. And you touched on it a minute ago where you said, somebody's going to be listening and they're going to be like, I might have went through that. And I think what people need to realize is it doesn't mean you have to be in the military. You're sitting there and you're telling stories and you're telling a story about something being extremely hard. And there's a way you guys persevered. And somebody's like, man, I didn't, but I also had a hard story and I figured out a way to come on top, and like, it's meaningful. And I want to shift gears really quick. There are some things I want to get back to, but I want to shift gears really quick. I want to talk about you signing up and the stuff you had to go through. Let's talk about you becoming a Marine. We're not going to watch a YouTube video and walk away being like, all right, I know how to do it. Tell me.
So, obviously, I always knew I wanted to be a Marine. September 11th happened. That was not the catalyst, but I do remember I went over to that Vietnam vet's house and I'm like, what in the world? Right. And I mean, I remember that day with him. I remember the words he said, the conversation was crazy. Guy that had been to Vietnam, that had been to combat. The first words out of his mouth was, "This country will never be the same. This world will never be the same." And he nailed it there in the first few
Yep.
seconds. Now, when I wanted to join the Marine Corps, it was peacetime. I didn't waver. I didn't think like all of a sudden, like, oh no, we're going to be going to combat. I don't even know if it made me want to do it more. I knew what I wanted to, regardless of what was happening on like geopolitical world stuff, especially 18, you don't think about that stuff, or at least we didn't back then when life was good. First of all, you go in there and they tell you like, we don't want you. Like the Marines, almost everybody I've talked to, they're like, oh, you're not going to make it in the Marine Corps. Like we don't want you. And then you come back, you know, and you stay with it. They definitely weren't hurting for numbers back then because, you know, American flags are everywhere. We got attacked. Everybody signed up. I enlisted. It was like December 28th of 2002. That was the day that I swore in at MEPS. And if anybody remembers, it was like that following January, February, when everything was starting to be staged for Iraq. So it's like, okay, I'm going in infantry. We're already in Afghanistan. It looks like we're going to go into Iraq. Definitely going to be getting some. You know? So February 23rd, which is Iwo Jima Day, the day they raised the flag on Iwo Jima, which I always think is super cool. That's the day I went to boot camp. And March comes and like we invaded Iraq. The one thing I'll never forget is if we had a day where the drill instructors, let's say, were less impressed than they typically were, they would come down and they would read off the names of like KIA and the things that happened over there. So you guys think that this is a joke. You think it's a game. You know, like this is where you're headed. Like we know where you're going. We're not preparing for what if scenarios anymore. Afghanistan is real happening. We're invading Iran. So those two things are happening. You're going, especially if you're an infantry guy. May 23rd, you graduated, earned the title, 2003. From there, you go, you do your school of infantry training because as an infantry person, if you do other jobs, you do training and then you go to those other jobs. And getting to the fleet, you have like a lot of people are always like, what, you know, wanting to prepare for boot camp. What's that like? The hardest part, this, that, and the other thing. Like, listen, man, boot camp's this much of your experience. You'll be fine. You're going to get yelled at. It's going to suck. It's 3 months. You're good. You move on. Then you get to the fleet and there's all these like seasoned guys, right? And they all look like giants. I swear to God, everybody was like 7 foot, 350. They were just built. And you get there, you're like this little kid and you just try to stay out of everybody's way, not get yelled at, not get in trouble. And maybe it was like a month in or something. We were supposed to go to Fort AP Hill for Virginia for training. And they read off this list of names and my name was on the list. And at this point, I was still like a good kid. And I hadn't gotten in any trouble, no weekend mischief or anything yet. Why is my name on this list? And so went over there. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning and they're like, okay, everybody that's here, you're going to Afghanistan, you know? And that's when like we had a kid ask us last night, like he's going to boot camp in like 7 days. And he was asking us like, are they going to send me to Iran? It's like, they're going to send you wherever they want to send you. You could literally wake up one morning, you think you're going to Virginia and you're going to Afghanistan. I've experienced that. So we did that deployment. It was a short.
Did this scare the shit out of you?
It's more shock than anything. Like you have no idea what's going on. And we were going to go to Virginia for training. Now we're going to Afghanistan for like an emergency thing to the embassy in Kabul. The good thing that came from that deployment is it was short. It wasn't a full 7-month long deployment. It was like a little emergency deployment. We had to go do some things. You got some experience. You got overseas, you know, you got some accolades and stuff for showing up and being there. It was almost kind of like a little taste of what the next deployment was going to be like.
You went on a little field trip with the with the military. Hey guys, have your parents sign this form. We're going to take you to Kabul for a couple days.
Yeah, they took us on a little field trip to Afghanistan. You know, some things happened. They were getting training in Virginia. We were getting training in Afghanistan. Ours was just a little bit more real world. You know, rounds weren't going just one direction over in Afghanistan like they were in Virginia. But we did that. We had another one, Afghanistan in 04, and then we did the Iraq in 05 to 06. And the entire experience, it's funny, you said something. I do want to say something real quick to this because I forgot, but then it just came back to me. So you talked about people that are like, man, like they're looking to go back and get in. I was one of those guys. After I got out, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I went to the recruiting station and they make it, if you think it's hard to get into the military, try getting out and then going back in, especially the Marine Corps. I remember asking, the recruiters were straight cool with me. And they're like, this is everything you have to do. And I'm like, why is it so hard? And they're like, it's the arrogance of the Marine Corps, man. You left. You want back? Here's these hoops. Jump through them. You left us. That's how the Marine Corps looks at it. And so I didn't go back in. And then, you know, it's another one of those things. I thought I was like the only one. Or I thought I was the only one that was like, oh, I can't do it out here. I need the Marine Corps again. And then I find out that like literally a dude I served with, he did like 2 or 3 enlistments. He was a drill instructor. He got out. He went back to the recruiting station. And I'm like, what? And that's the power and the things that we're doing and you're doing is the conversations. Like someone might be out there right now listening that's like, oh man, I'm not the only one. Like I wasn't messed up for feeling like I needed to go back in. Oh, dude, you were normal for feeling that way. There's so many things we talk about. The Discord, that's the virtual barracks Discord group, and the things we talk about in there. And we make light of it and joke of it and stuff. But like, ABS is a big one that comes up. People are talking about that. Oh, hold on. I'm not weird. I'm not the only one. It's like, no, you're welcome. Let us wrap our arms around you. You're one of us. You know, we all have this stuff. The sinus stuff. Like so many things we have is the same. That's why it's so powerful doing these things to let people know you are not alone. You know, come hang out with us.
You touched on something where you said, you left the military, you went back to the recruitment office, and you're like, hey, let me get back in the Marines. And they were like, slow down, young lad. We know you know how to do our stuff, but now you need to do it better, right? But it was because that became your normalcy. And I think that's what's so strange about the military. People go get a job and they're like, oh, I lost my job. I got to go find another job. You're still existing in somewhat of a normal life. What's changed might have been your little bit of the 9 to 5 that you went to each day. But for you guys, there was no 9 to 5. It was life. That became normal. And now you're coming back as a civilian and you're like, civilian life, which historically was my normal, does not feel normal anymore. And what feels normal is the military, the branches that I might have been in, whatever you want to do, however you want to move around. But then you made the decision to sit there and say, I've got to figure out how to make this my normalcy again, because you have these chapters in the military, but it seems like, I could be totally off base, it seems like you were not going to let your life be chapters of the military. You really wanted an element of your life to be a chapter of the military. And now the next journey you're on happened to be, I'm helping people who have left the military. And this is now your new chapter, which might even become more powerful than being in the military. And it's not right for everybody. But is that how you look at it? Like it's just understanding the normalcy of where you exist and your thought process behind that. Was that the hardest thing?
So when we get out, at least for myself, there's an exit interview and I did it with a captain, and you go in there and you just kind of ask like, why do you want to get out? And I said, well, sir, I want to enjoy this freedom that I've been fighting for the past 4 years, because you're either fighting for it or enjoying it. You can't do both at the same time. You get to go out and have fun. We did. We had lots of fun, but you're still very much under their control, their command. And so to be able to go out and do these things, I said, I actually like want to go to sleep for the first time in 4 years, like to actually like just sleep and not have to whatever the next day or this or that or the middle of the night or the next mission or fire watch or all these things that happen. And then I said, and when it's hot outside, I want to wear shorts and sandals. I don't want to be wearing these cami pants. I don't want to be wearing boots in this freaking uniform, especially North Carolina. It's hot a lot. I want to wear shorts and sandals. I remember this guy looked at me and he's like, man, he's like, I never thought about it that way. And I was like, well, sir, maybe you should. We always joke. There's the jokes about, if they want me to re-enlist, I want an Abrams tank and different stuff like this. But I went in there and I just was straight honest with the dude. And he was like, yeah, man, I mean, you sounds like you know what you want. And you get out, like I said, you go back to the recruiting office because you get out. And I mean, look at recidivism rate for prisons and stuff. People go back in just because they get out and they don't feel right out. They feel right there. So I think it's very much the same with us. Like you feel right. And so fortunately, like I did find my way. Part of it, I think I talked to you about training in Krav Maga. And I was just looking for something because we had the Marine Corps martial arts program. I really enjoyed that. And I just was researching different things, and Krav was there. It was in St. Louis where I was living at the time. And I started training with these guys and just instant bond. Like it was, holy crap. I haven't experienced this since the military. And it was great, even more than the physical. I mean, the physical is great too, but just, it was really the camaraderie of being with them. And actually the dude that owned the gym, still owns the gym. He was the best man at my wedding, and that was almost 10 years after I'd met him. So that's how close that we stayed. Even when I moved away, we still remain super close to this day because of camaraderie. Right. And from there, I had met somebody, a girl from Sweden, who she was getting all of her education paid for. She was getting a master's degree. And she was kind of on me about you have this education, you're not using it. And one of the guys I was training with was like, hey man, get a bachelor's degree. You can come join the ATF. And I'm like, okay, cool. Everything's coming together. I'm going to stay here, live in St. Louis forever, keep doing Krav Maga for the rest of my life, probably marry this girl, join the ATF after I get a bachelor's degree. None of that happened because that's life. And, I started college. I got into psychology. And the whole reason, everybody's like, oh, is it because you really wanted to understand? No, I was like, which degree requires the least amount of math? Like, that's the conversation I had with the little counselor person. I'm like, what requires the least amount of math? Because if I was good at math, I would have became like a mechanical engineer or something, like design cars for GM or something like that, right? No, math, not good. Marine, right? No, those don't work. I went to school, and then I ended up finishing down in North Carolina at UNC Wilmington. I mean, it just, everything was meant to be, because that's where I met my now wife. I had became part of a research lab, clinical neuropsychology, doing research with TBI, PTSD, with a database of over 1,000 Marines and sailors from Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where I was stationed. Part of like 5 different publications and articles and presentations that went out, spoke nationally at conferences, Columbia University Medical School, all of these things. When you trace it back to trying to find that purpose, and sometimes people give up on that purpose. And the one thing I always try to reinforce and tell them, like, I get where y'all are at because I was there. A lot of us have been there. Now if you think where I'm at is a cool place and I'm doing good things, well, it's because I didn't stop when I couldn't figure it out. Like, if I'd have went to the recruiter station in '07, '08, and they said no, and I gave up or ended it, then what? Or if I don't know, I can't be a mechanical engineer. I'm not going to go to school then. You just have to keep pushing forward, and you have to keep moving forward and finding that purpose. And a lot of veterans know that. A lot of veterans, they get it, they know it. It's knowing and then putting it into practice. So I ended up with, long story short, just kind of ended up with a master's degree in psychology, which has helped tremendously with what we're doing. The things that we're doing, understanding where other people are coming from, being able to talk with people, work with people. So we started the TikTok lives coming up on 3 months ago. Kind of funny is we've had, I don't know if you've seen others. There's a lot of imitations out there that popped up after kind of the success we've had.
Mm-hmm.
And they say like the imitation is the most sincerest form of flattery, right? Yeah, they can imitate, they can't replicate. And a huge part of that is to the community that we've drawn, like all the people. It's 9 people that have told us that if they wouldn't have found us that night, they probably would have ended it. Like, they were in a really dark spot. We have another guy that we were able to hook up with resources and help take care of, keep him off the streets. He was a checkout from a hotel room for being homeless. Someone came in yesterday and was like, hey, do we have a resource for helping people because they're going through some financial struggles? They might lose their house. Yes, we do. Simplifying America's Fund. I sent them the links. This is how, walking all these people through all of these things, you become a media company. We were just a little podcast. And then we went from like Spotify to eventually we started doing YouTube. We started doing reels everywhere. Then we expanded to Twitch. And it's like, especially with what we're doing to save lives, like, you kind of have to be everywhere because not everybody is in one place. And I don't know, can I read something real quick?
You can read anything. Go ahead.
So we went live yesterday during the day, which is something we rarely ever do. I was like doing something and we were just in Discord voice chatting anyways. And I'm like, hey, do you guys just want to go over to TikTok voice chat? Maybe some new people can find us. They'll be like, hey, this is my vibe. I want to hang out with these people. Well, it turned into people finding us, and we've got a sergeant major that works with us and helps people with their VA benefits and claims and discharge upgrades and all these things. And so we had 9 people up, including myself. And it turned into people coming up saying like, hey, I'm struggling with this. Hey, I need help with this. And this is the middle of the day. Usually we expect that stuff at nighttime. That's why we go live from 1:45 a.m. to 3:45 a.m. People are like, why do you do that? Because that's when people need us. That's why. Trust me. I mean, we have fun, but it ain't for the fun. It's for the saving the lives. This is direct result of, right? The guy just said, I watched part of your live today with some others, and I honestly love the information you're putting out there. I really wish I would have had access to this, some of this info years ago. I'll skip ahead a little bit because the other, so it's just kind of, flattering stuff. You guys don't need to hear that. But anyways, the last paragraph, he said, that's why I really appreciate what you're doing, helping share information with vets that may need the help, but might not have the money to pay someone. Respect you for that. And in there, one of the things he was talking about is he refers people because, there's people that charge veterans to help them. But we don't, nothing up front, nothing on the back end, nothing. There's not a subscription for our Discord, nothing costs, right? We don't need to take money out of veterans' pockets. That's why when you see, I'm going to go on a little, now it's soapbox time. When you see these veterans on TikTok and places like that, like, battling, right? I'm thankful for TikTok because that's where I met so many of these people. That's where we met. We met via TikTok. So I am thankful for the platform, but we used to have in our lives like over 200 people, and now like a good night is 40, and we're like at the top 99%. We have crazy retention times of like 6 minutes. Like the average viewer time, they tell you to try to get to a minute 30. Our average viewer time is like 6 minutes, 40 seconds is what we're saying matters. And they don't want to spread our message to more veterans who might need it. So we used to do battles and have fun, but what are battles? Battles are gifts, right? And who gets 50% or more of that? TikTok. And I'm like, listen, guys, we're done. We're not battling anymore. And so when I see other veterans on there that just like, that's all they do all day is, it's like, we shouldn't be taking money from our fellow veterans. Like, what are we doing, guys? What are we doing?
So people understand this idea within TikTok, this battling thing was newer over the past, let's say, year or two. And what you do is you have your screen open, somebody else has a screen open, and people who follow you gift you, I call TikTok coins. It's essentially a micro penny for all intents and purposes. And the amount of micro pennies that add up equate to larger gifts. And some of these gifts could be $100, $200. They do get more expensive. And TikTok takes 50 to 60%, depending on how many followers you have. And then the individual gets the rest. And I have the same issue with battling, which I don't like. I don't like going out into the TikTok world and having people send me their money. What people don't realize is like, it might be a micro penny here or there. It adds up. And most of these people, I don't care who you are, like a penny is becoming more important these days. It's not just a penny. It adds up and it's paying for food or heat or light or whatever it might be. And I'm not in a situation where I need that. You guys, which I think I think this is so, and look, you can put on your little psychology beard if you want and decide if I'm right or wrong, right? Take yourself, put the other one on. You went into the Marines because you wanted to help people. You wanted to keep people safe. This love that you have for people. You came out of the Marines and you started this Discord, this TikTok, this YouTube, this Twitch, where the messaging is all the same. So let's just have everybody understand. You could kind of hang out with Dirty Mike and his dudes and listen to the stories and listen to other people's stories on any of these applications, which I think is one of the positive ways we should have be interpreting a lot of technology right now, because a lot of stuff is getting kind of rough and bad. But this is one of the good reasons, right? It's bringing the world together. It's making things a little smaller. It's making you attainable. But you're also leaving the military and taking up arms in this world to do the same thing you did before. You're just doing it to help people. And I know that you and I probably have the same belief. Look, we put stuff out on YouTube. Enough people watch it. YouTube pays us money, advertising dollars or whatever. I'll take that money. I'll take it. It's going to go to somebody. I'm going to take it. I'm not asking from one individual. This is coming from a corporation. I'll take it. But from the individual, we don't need to. And instead, which I think is also one of the reasons why I started this podcast, it's people lead interesting lives and exist in an interesting space, but very rarely are they the only ones. And there's always going to be somebody who listens to that story to say, wait, I kind of do that. That's kind of like me. Maybe I need to reach out to them. Maybe there's a bigger conversation here. And the amount of people that you've stopped from unaliving themselves, whether it was 1 or 1,000.
Yeah.
You've done what you needed to do. And I wish, we both know the military is very military. They would probably never go out and pay for and sponsor all of these things that exist on TikTok and Discord and Twitch and possibly a part of applications that aren't always owned by the United States and just whatever, right? There's always politics involved. But for you to be able to go out and do this and say, we know where our people are, we need to kind of help that camaraderie. We need to prove that camaraderie. We need to make sure that people can find us, be obtainable, and more importantly, be there if they need help, no matter what that help is. Man, this is literally the feud the proud. This is like an extension of everything that you did in the military. And it doesn't mean, you don't need to be there with a weapon, and you don't need to be there keeping your freedom alive by stopping somebody from coming in. Instead, now you're inside saying, I need to help the people around me understand how great things can be and understand what help we could have, because this is an extension of freedom. What you're doing is one of the reasons why you fought to be free. You want to be able to offer these solutions to individuals who might not feel that they're able to take advantage of it. And it's just, it goes back to you. It speaks so well of you, and it's super nice. You touched on one other piece, and then I do want to talk about what the virtual barracks are and kind of everything you're involved. You touched on one other thing privately with me. You said when you were going to leave, right? You were leaving Iraq and you got sad, not because you were leaving, but because you saw like a kid, some Iraqi kid, and you said, I know that I'm pulling out and we're leaving and other people are going to be leaving. Are these people still going to be safe? And that's what bothered you.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about an American or a non-American or the Middle East or whatever, because we love as people to shit on people. We love that.
Yeah.
But right. But you sat there and you were like, we're going to leave. Now that we're here, if we leave, is this kid going to be safe? And you don't know. And those were your feelings when you were leaving. And that's hard. I understand why people in the military get out and they're like, I don't know what to do, man. I don't know what to do. Like the shit you do, it's hard and it's tough and there's no guarantees. But the difference between stuff that's hard, no guarantees, and tough in my life is that nobody's dying. Nobody's dying. In yours, there's a chance they are. What's that weight like? What's that like?
Yeah, when we got back from that second deployment in Afghanistan and we lost guys, and we went and had a memorial service for them when we got back stateside, and the family members were there, and they did the roll call, and like anybody that knows. If you don't know, they'll seem off some people that are there, present accounted for. And then they name the person that they know isn't there. There's a couple things that get me. Like that freaking gets me every time. Like it just gets me even thinking about it. They don't just say the name once, right? They've got to say it like 3 times. You know, they got to call it like 3 times. They're like Lance Corporal White, Lance Corporal White. And then like you hear their family start crying. Jesus Christ, dude. Welcome back home from deployment, guys. And then they'll say like respects for, and then that's when they play taps. So then it was after that deployment that I became the section leader. So I was the head of the 0351 assault section and weapons platoon. And I was 20 years old. There was 15 of us. Like that moment when we got back from Afghanistan, it's obviously clearly stuck with me, but that stuck with me continuously. I did not want to be the section leader that got up there and spoke in remembrance of somebody. I saw how hard that was. I didn't want the family members of guys I had to be sitting out there crying. And like when you're 20, like that weighs pretty heavily on you. We still stay in touch with family members and stuff. So one of my new guys that we went to Iraq with, he came to us right before Iraq, Marlon Myrie, and he's buried down here near me in the South Florida National Cemetery. And we go there and we meet with his mom every Memorial Day. And last time we saw her, we had some guys drive down to hang out and go there with me. And I just remember giving her a hug after hanging out talking. And she just said, shit, thanks for remembering him. And man, like I wasn't even there, like that was 2011. I got out in 2007. So that was like what, 6 years or something after, he had been with me, but just, that's a big thing that we don't think about. And sometimes it's like a selfish mentality where veterans think about how hard it is for us. Imagine being that family member. Like we know if we're alive or not when we're overseas. Sometimes I question it. Am I here still here? But then like 30 seconds later, you realize you're still alive. Your family's at home. They have no idea, man. For Marines, 7 months, Army, 12 months. They have no idea until they get a letter or a phone call. Yes, we miss our fallen brothers and stuff. If people want to be real honest, take a look in the mirror and be honest with themselves after we get out. Yeah, we'll keep in touch with one another, but we do go our separate ways and we live our separate lives. She still doesn't have her son, and that's every day. His son doesn't have his dad. That's every day. And I think that as hard as it is for us, we've got to be better at getting with family members because it means a lot to them that we just still remember, So yeah, it's not easy, but that's why we have to come together in places like we do because we all have tough days. And when we come back together, we're stronger together, we're better together. And when we're healthier together, that gives us some of the strength and ability to go do things that need to be done, like make a phone call. We got a kid that we lost in 2004. And I mean, I didn't get in touch with his parents till like 20 years later. I don't think that the captain had ever been in touch with them. Like nobody's like ever been in touch with that family. And it's hard, man. It's hard being there, hanging out with them. It's hard. It's hard to pick up the phone and make a call. That's why people don't do it. And I get it, but sometimes you got to do the hard stuff because it matters. Everything in life that's hard usually matters. It's worth doing. It could mean the world to somebody to pick up the phone. And I'm guilty of it. The Marine I told you, the 80s Marine, Greer Baker. I went to school with his son, who joined the Marine Corps a year after me. And he got killed in Ramadi in 2006. It's 20 years, man. I've maybe seen them like 2 or 3. Like, all I have to do is pick up the phone. Like, I can't do it. You know, it's just, damn.
It's hard.
Well, you said at the beginning you wanted to make me cry. So
success.
Check
that's it.
Check that box.
That's it. No,
That's a wrap.
I think what's so amazing about this, and it's the military. To people that don't understand the military, always has a bad rap, right?
Yeah.
You think these guys, they don't have an education, they don't have any money, they're going to do this. Like, look at them, they came out, they couldn't do anything, they went and shot this up, they couldn't handle it. It gets a bad rap. All the good stories, like, look, even Hollywood, right? We hear about the good stories. Most of them are built on lots of truths, but a lot of people are dying in the progress for us to have those truths.
Yeah.
So the military itself gets this tarnished view to the civilian population. And if you're in the military, you get it, but you also don't have people who every day are jumping on some TikTok or some microphone to be like, let's talk about how good this is. Let's talk about something else other than we were sent here to, unalive a number of these individuals. Let's talk about why. Let's talk about the reason for it. Let's talk about what this is now actually going to mean for you is a very different story. And I get it. It's not as fun. It's not as exciting. It's not as Hollywood.
Yeah.
So people really focus on what they want to focus on. One thing I want to talk about here. So there's tons of military movies you can watch, and tons of them. I don't care who you are. You watch a movie like Saving Private Ryan or these huge Hollywood films, there's elements of it that you get choked up in, and you're just like, God, it could be my kid. It could have been me, my son, whatever it might be. I watched not too long ago, and I know it was a 2009 film, HBO film, Taking Chances with Kevin Bacon. And his job is just to escort the body of a fallen Marine home. That's his job. And the entire film, watching it is very hard because he's dealing with it internally. He knows he's got to take on all this weight of saying, my whole purpose is just making sure that this kid who is fighting for freedom, one way or another, gets home so his family can have the honor to bury him. And that movie really, really took my emotions for a spin. It's not always we're fighting on a battlefield. And I think that's what you're doing and what we're about to touch on with the businesses that you started, which weren't even going to be businesses. They were just guys talking.
Yeah.
But your military job, whether you know it or not, it's never ending. Now this is your job. In the film, this guy's job was escorting a body. It's not always about war. It's about escorting. It's about helping. It's about closure. There's so much more that goes on there. And you now are a part of that other bookend of the military. Help. How can I help you? I'm not going to take $1. How can I help you? And you've assembled a team of Avengers, of other folks like you, to sit there and say, how can we help you? And we don't even know who you are. And we're going to help you. And it's amazing. It's amazing. This is my takeaway from what you do, knowing I've never been in the military. And this is actually why it moved me so much and why I reached out and said I wanted to chat with you. Take everybody through everything that you're doing now. What virtual barracks are, what you're setting up, who are the people with you. Let's talk about this. Let's unpack it.
Yeah. So, a lot of people asked how the virtual barracks started because of the podcast. We went live on TikTok. We had like a whopping 9 people, man. Like, we were big time. There was 9 people. 2 of them were friends of mine. We had a whopping 7 people hanging with us. And we just kind of sat around, and it was, I think I labeled it like Marine Q&A or something like that. People had questions about boot camp or whatever. I should go back and watch one of those first videos, see how horrible it was. Because you know how we are, right? It's always so bad, the first one we do.
Always.
Then we did it again. And then we did it again. And the first one was like 40 minutes. The second one was like 30, 40 minutes. Like, yeah, oh my, we're doing it. Like, yeah, we did good things. The next one was 3 hours and 21 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have a setup. I was like this for 3 hours and 21 minutes. Like, 3 hours and 21 minutes, man. Like resting my hand, and my wife, she messaged me, on Facebook, and it popped up, and she's like, how are you still going? And I'm like, it's just, I didn't know these guys, but it was just instant. So then the next night we come back together and we're like, dude, that was so awesome. Somebody's like, yeah, dude, it was like hanging out in the smoke pit. was like, yeah, like hanging out in the barracks together. It feels like a virtual barracks. Boom. It was coined. Like it does kind of have more of that smoke pit vibe, but it's TikTok and you can't smoke or do things like that. So virtual barracks is a little more fitting. And then we were only going to do it 3 nights a week, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, go on for a couple hours, hang out, meet people, talk. There was a night that we did the pop up, and there was a guy who was really, really struggling. And he was like trying to get people to unalive him. So just random people, like he might come up to you on the street and push you and try to get you to be the one that draws and ends it for him. And so I'm just like, hey, the people in there, because I didn't have a computer or anything. I was outside with just my phone. I'm like, hey, can we look up? I still remember he's in South Bend, Indiana. This was back in February. I still remember. And people are looking up resources, vet centers, all these different things. We're dropping links in there. Everyone came together. And I remember telling my wife after I got off the phone, I said, we don't just have rough days 3 times a week. I think I'm going to start doing this every day. And so I did. And it was a Thursday, March 18th. That's how clear I remember it. So it was right before our 1-month anniversary. And I got so blessed. I'll shout them out, man. The guy named Matt Cooper, KD, Reckless, Doc, and this guy, Chris, 31. Like they were all in there that night. And that night was just incredible. And it was that night I made them all mods. I just met these people, but I felt it. And so the next day I'm messaging them and I'm like, I'm going to set up a Discord because I want what we had last night all the time. And so I didn't know anything about Discord, man. I knew it existed. Doc is helping me. And we set it up in such a way where we've got general chat. We've got event room because we wanted to give people a room to go. Like you don't want your general chat, but then you don't to be weighed down, but then you don't want people to not feel like they have a place to go. And then we don't ever talk politics on the Discord. So we gave them, it's called the politics smoke pit. It hardly ever gets used. People that lived in the barracks, especially around the time that I was in, we drank, we smoked, we listened to music, we laughed, we played games, we did stupid things. The last things that we were doing was talking politics and religion, right? And it transfers over and it shows here, like in the virtual freaking barracks, man. But we did give people that option if they wanted to drop things, something for all the branches. And then it was very important for us to have an SOS chat. And, if you've been on Discord, you know that there's text channels, there's voice channels. And so we have SOS for both. So when I'm live, if someone comes in and they're like, man, I'm in a rough spot, I need to talk, I'm having a horrible night. Well, our mods would take them, get them over to Discord and have a one-on-one conversation with them and help them. So then it's grown into, now we have mods. We started if anybody's ever seen Full Metal Jacket, Charlie Chaplin Charlie. So we've got our Chaplain Charlies, and then we've got some women. So we've got our Chaplain Charlene's. We've got a civilian who's a Marine Corps wife, and she actually found this program called the Firewatch Watch Standards program based out of Florida. She completed it. It's just to help her be able to speak with people during a time of crisis. She sent me the certificate. This is amazing. We need to make you a chaplain if you're interested, And so mods, chaplains, like all these support roles. We've got the sergeant major. Anybody who knows Juan Perez, Peace After War, he goes by JP. He's the veteran coach. He's got a pretty big social media presence. A lot of people do know him. We did a podcast together and we just really hit it off. He's all about helping people. We set him up a room on our channel. So now when people can request to talk with him and, he can do mentoring and guidance and people that are looking for direction and purpose after getting out. The sergeant major has a voice room over there now where he does one-on-ones. People schedule appointments. Someone had an hour-long appointment scheduled with him yesterday, and he spoke with them about what they went through in the military, what they're eligible to claim, like all of these things. So my business partner for Shaker, we built an app for networking. Think of like LinkedIn meets TikTok meets Tinder. So you have your video profile, elevator pitch, who you are, and people can swipe left or right if they want to network and connect with you. So my business partner, he was a general contractor and his son is an officer in the Navy and he's a huge supporter of the military. He passed last year. And the one thing that we always wanted to do, like it was our goal, this is what we're going to do whenever we sell the company, was to buy like an old Motel 6 and turn it into a barracks because that's where we feel like we belong. And we were going to provide resources. We're going to have counselors come in. We're going to have people from the VA come in. We're going to have people come in, physically volunteer their time or find them and compensate them somehow. We're not there yet. That's still going to happen one day. We are going to build that place. Step 1, the virtual barracks. People come, they have roles, they have duties. People come in, they find that camaraderie, that love that they're missing. Like the kid I talked about before we started recording. His wife said he hadn't smiled like that in forever. he's only been with us one night. Like, homie, she might be happy, but she's going to get annoyed because you're going to be with us a lot more, like she's like, are you still hanging out with those guys? But I had a spouse reach out to me and tell me that I haven't seen him like this happy in years. We had another guy, he celebrated his 1 month anniversary and he said, I haven't laughed this much in like the last 5 years. We just have all these people talking about how impactful just a Discord server is to them. And if there's anybody, we don't drop it publicly because we keep it safe and clean from bots and scammers. So anybody listening, we're going to encourage them to message me directly for the link to it because we want you there. Unfortunately, we can't post it publicly because we know what happens. The people we don't want there come there and they try to scam people and stuff. We have a game room, dude. We literally have a game room. I bet if I pull it up right now and look, there's somebody in there playing a game and there's people in there watching them play the game. Yep, right here. And I even named it after her because like I named it Liz's Gaming Lair. And there's a huge shout out to her too, because guess what? This computer I have, I was operating off a laptop, a little stupid thing. That's how I was running all my podcasts, everything. And then we went to Twitch, and I know this is like me segueing, but it matters. We went to Twitch, and we started playing games on Twitch, like marbles and different stuff like that. That's more interactive for the barracks, dude. Let me tell you, that computer the RAM was not up to speed. Liz sent me this freaking $2,000 gaming computer, like a spare computer she had. Boxed it up. I mean, I was like, well, at least let me pay for shipping. So I did sell her for the shipping and stuff, but like, she's like, it's just laying around. It's not going to do anything, And so like, that's how, and going back to the people that are taking money out of veterans' pockets. And so that's one of the biggest reasons we went to Twitch, because I know that there's people that want to financially support our mission and what we do. Well, for those who don't know, you can subscribe to the creator for free on Twitch with your Prime sub, Amazon Prime. So guess what? You're already paying for Amazon. Now you are helping support us financially and not a single penny came out of your pocket. It's finding like where there's a will, because people told me, they're like, well, Mike, you realize we gift you because we like you and we believe in what you're doing and we want to gift you. We know we're giving you money. And I'm like, cool, but I don't like that you're giving TikTok money because they're not pushing us out like they used to. So how do we solve for this? Let's go to Twitch. And then here's where that's even more powerful. And I know I'm just like, now I'm rabbit holing this shit, man, but I'm like fired up. You asked what we're doing. You said, what are you guys doing right now? So when someone comes into Twitch and finds us and is new, like I can gift that person the sub. So now I'm bringing them into the family. Hey, you belong here. Welcome. You're with us. And you're also financially helping the creative. But this one I can say like, hey, Joey, welcome in, man. We're glad that you're here. We want to make you part of the community. Here, I'm going to give you a subscription to bring you in and let you be part of this. And then so now the creator's getting compensated, but then also I'm able to directly give the sub to wrap my arms around somebody and bring them into our community. And just Twitch is amazing, man. I love Twitch. It's so great. And and these guys love playing marbles. Like, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but marbles is a blast.
Yep.
Yeah. So
and so people
great time.
So people know Twitch. Twitch is a site you're able to go to, and essentially people play games. And you're able to watch people play games. You can join in. There's a number of different ways that you can interact. But it's built around gamification, which is something that's, huge. Right? I mean, no one thought, Nintendo comes out and one day video games are going to be this big of a deal, but they really are. And they really are a place for you to burn off steam. I still love playing games. My wife will be like, get the fuck off the gaming system. And I'm like, you don't understand. This is how I can relax. So many other people join in that. So it is a good place to go. Mike, you've done something that weirdly feels like it should have just existed. It feels like these places for people in the military to go and learn more about each other. Because what you did is you're building this whole like social network, and it's many networks, but I think it needs to be around people in the military, or if you're tangential in the military, meaning a spouse or interested or something along those lines. It sucks historically that there wasn't an easy way to pull all this together. And I think the right move right now with technology is saying, wait, we can pull this all together. We can pull this all together. When there's a will, there's a way. You touched on it before. And you, again, did this out of love of people. This wasn't done for you to become a millionaire. And in fact, no, I'm just going to say it. You're not going to become a millionaire from this. Passion projects, when they become bigger than you, there's something that feels really good. It's the reason why I do this podcast. It's a passion project. I make $0, but I'm meeting people that I normally would not meet. And I've always been a people collector. I love sitting there, understanding who those characters are, putting them in my pocket and saying, I feel so much better now that I know that I was able to, I don't know, meet them in some way and have some conversation with them in some way. And that's what you're doing. And it's so nice, and you're having success. And I think that just goes to show the value of what you're doing, but more importantly, the need for so many people that are in the military or have left the military, and how this needs to exist. It needs to exist. So unfortunately, you can't stop. That's the other problem. You can't stop doing this, and you've got now to figure out how to monetize it in some way, because now you have a number of people that help you. You're talking about, buildings, and you're talking about making this more brick and mortar, and but you're playing into what people in the military know. They know the barracks. They know the smoke room.
Yeah.
They know how to be friendly with people. And more importantly, I think you touched on it before, it wasn't about religion and politics. It wasn't about whether you agree or disagree with an administration. It wasn't about whether I agree or disagree who your God is or the reason why you do something. It was more about, we're in this together. Look at all the commonalities we have with one another. Those other things don't really matter. We're cool. We're going to link to everything. It won't obviously be the Discord, but it's going to be to your email, which people can reach out to and gain access to the Discord. We're going to be able to link to your YouTube site. We're going to link to TikTok. We're going to link to Instagram. We will link to Twitch, and we will link to every other social media that exists, because there's just so many of them right now. But we will link to all of them. And there's so many places that you're going to be able to see this discussion. And I'm going to venture to say the conversation between Mike and I probably is not over. I really enjoy speaking with you and
the
journey that you're on. It's beautiful, man.
I knew when we did our 15-minute intro call that went over an hour, I'm like, this is a really cool dude, man. Like, it's funny too, is like, sometimes, you got to be, I don't know, you always keep your guard up a little bit, proceed with caution. But, when you sent me that message, and I went and looked at your videos and stuff, and I'm just like, man, this guy, like, I like how he talks, I like his energy. Like, I believe in energies, right? I believe that people can vibrate on like the same levels, and like, that's one of the things that connects us subconsciously and everything, but even still, like, you were like wanting my email, and I'm like, okay, this is all right. That's why I didn't give you, I would give you the personal one now for what it's worth, but
Thank you.
I'd give you my phone number now for what it's worth. But yeah, like we met, we had a call, we had a talk, and I'm just like, obviously I feel like anybody's watching this is like, man, those guys like vibe really well together. And I mean, I think it would be super cool. We're recording a podcast tonight with a guy who's leaving for boot camp next week. So this will be the first one we've ever done where it's like, he has no idea what he thinks he knows, but I want to record everything he says. And then when he graduates, right, he's going to rewatch that podcast, and then we're going to do another one. We're going to do a follow-up. And I think that there's something cool and power. Like, you have to get out of your echo chamber and bring different people on. And I think that's what's super cool about, because people are like, man, you should do this podcast with this guy. And like, they're all military people. So, to be able to link up with somebody and, like yourself, like, because everybody's perspective matters. And we don't ever, like you said, what do you call us, guys? Like, you're normal. I mean, if somebody is judging anybody out there for not serving, there's an inadequacy of their own that they're facing. There's something there. There's a reason I believe that it should be a volunteer service and not mandatory. And there's not room for everybody. Let's face it. Even people who are enlisting sometimes are getting pushed 4 to 6 months out because that job that they want isn't available. So they have to wait to ship off to boot camp until there becomes an availability. There's slots, there's seats. Not everyone can even do it. And I'm not talking about physically, mentally, just numbers, logistically. Logistically, the military could not take everyone in. Talk about how people do service in other ways. You don't have to wear a uniform to serve. I know plenty of people that served and never wore the uniform. Just being able to put this message out there, if one person hears it, man, like, you're doing a service. You are serving our community just by having me here with you today. Like, you are serving us, man. And that means a lot. And I appreciate it.
Thank you. I want to say ditto to you, because you said it so eloquently. I think this isn't for everybody, but I think especially now, the world is so much smaller, and look, that's not new, but those astronauts went up in space not too long ago, and they looked back down, and this place was just a peaceful blue dot. And we really need to sit there and and brush off our shoulders and just say, look, you really got to start loving each other a lot more, appreciating each other a lot more, valuing what other people do, knowing that you might not be able to do what they do and they might not be able to do what you do, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't have conversations with them. Life's too short, man, to not share in everybody's excitement and be a part of everybody's life in some way. And I think that you're doing it in such a valuable place for you and the guys that you're doing this with. I appreciate so much. And Mike, Dirty Mike, which is just like you're like clean Mike. You're like clean nice guy Mike, but I know that's not as cool. Hey, look who's coming on stage. Oh, it's clean nice guy Mike. It doesn't have the same ring to it. But I want to appreciate you so much for opening up like this with me and with the viewers, and we're going to get this out there. You don't just leave that kind of life behind that you came from. You either lose it or you rebuild it. And you chose to rebuild it in such a unique way. I'm going to say it again. Misfits, they aren't rare. They're among us. We just have to find them. And you're one of them, dude. I can't thank you enough.
Amen, man. Said perfectly. I appreciate it so much.
Thanks, dude. All right. We're going to have Mike on again. We'll let you know all the Mike details. And thank you all for today. I think this was an important conversation. So everybody out there who's listening, thank you.